Welcome back to our channel, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans. Today we are going to talk about the one and only, the fearsome Shredder. TMNT has been around for 4 decades, right? And the best part? It happened in an accident. See, Shredder was brought to life by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird by chance. Apparently, while washing dishes, Eastman almost grated his hand on a cheese grater, and imagine that to be blades coming out from a villain's arm. That's how the Shredder we know and love came into being. What was supposed to be a one-off antagonist went on to become too powerful to be let go. No matter which alternate universe, which media you consider, the one obstacle that is constant is Shredder. He is the armor-clad nightmare that constantly haunts our teen turtles. You would think that every iteration of Oroku had the same power level, but let's be real, you and I both know that that's not true. So today I, your dear host, will tell you about the most dangerous version of Shredder, in my opinion. Some are terrifying, some are brutal, some are a little dumb, but scary either way. So if you're curious, I suggest you keep watching.
My new body gives me unlimited power!
2003 animated series Shredder, Utrom Shredder. Starting off our list strong, we have the undisputed most dangerous version of the Shredder, the Utrom Shredder, Trell, who we were introduced to in the 2003 animated series. This Shredder takes the first spot by a mile simply because of his case history. Unlike the others on our list, he is an intergalactic war criminal who has killed millions across the universe with his robotic human suit. This Shredder was a threat on an intergalactic level because he had access to advanced alien technology that was far more advanced than what we have. In his eyes, Earth was expendable as long as it meant he could get the entire galaxy to submit to him. He was power-hungry, sadistic, and dangerous. He wouldn't stop no matter what. And when he did actually realize that he messed up and he's now losing, what did he do? He took the entire planet hostage. Yep, he tried to detonate Earth just because he wanted to spite his enemies. This is some diabolical stuff that no one else on our list has come remotely close to. He is also at the top of my list because of how resourceful he was. He saw Krang's suit and tweaked the Utrom exosuit like that for himself, so he could grow in size and had a bunch of weapons built into the hands. With this suit, he actually fought against the 3 different versions of the Turtles, the original Mirage Comics version, the 1987 version, and the 2003 version. Splinter from 2003, Oroku-Saki's 1987 version, and Krang in his power-up suit. That is a lot of people he fought at the same time, and it took them that many people to bring him down. I don't know about you, but that's a mess. Hence, he gets our top spot, IDW Comics Shredder. The second version of Shredder that we think is the scariest is the Shredder of the ongoing IDW Comics series. Unlike the other Oroku-Sakis in this list, this one has a full-fledged personality. He is a mystical warlord and political mastermind. Now those are very dramatic words to explain a character, I know, but let me explain. He is a reincarnated entity who has plagued history for centuries. The story starts in feudal Japan. Here Oroku-Saki was a high-ranking member with Hamato Yoshi. Unlike Yoshi, who was a family man, Saki was more focused on his career, and eventually he rose to the Jonin rank, which was the highest rank. Once he became the leader, his true nature started to show, and his leadership style was not the best. He was cruel, and when Yoshi argued about it, Saki sent ninjas to kill off Yoshi's entire family. Then he took the help of Kitsune and got his hands on the regenerative ooze from an Utrom called the Iron Demon, which was later revealed to be connected with Krang. This ooze preserved his body for several centuries until his descendant Oroku Karai woke him up. And while he was in this stasis, his spirit actually conquered the realm of the afterlife, where he learned that he would rule the earth, yes, but he would come back to the afterlife as a lost soul. Now, knowing the future usually results in 2 things. You either accept it or you try to fight it. Oroku-Saki decided to go for the second option. He wasn't about to come back as a lost soul no matter what. So instead of indulging in petty squabbles now, he focused on playing the long game. He controlled the Foot Clan completely and controlled the criminal underworld of New York City very strictly. Every move he made, he had a plan behind it. And he could wield dark powers that made him a bigger threat than ever. Knowing what he wanted wouldn't be that easy to achieve with the Turtles in the way. Oroku-Saki went out of his way to make sure the Turtles were broken. In the City Fall arc, we get to see him successfully capture Leonardo and brainwash him into becoming his loyal son. This was not only a brutal blow to the Turtles, but also to us readers, because I never thought Leonardo would be the victim. There's something absolutely heinous about this Shredder simply because of how he systematically breaks down the worlds around him with ease. Mirage Comics Shredder, original. And the one who made our top 3 is the original Mirage Comics Shredder. I feel like a lot of us got to know about Shredder from the cartoons, especially the ones that came out in 1987. But in comparison to that Shredder, this comic Shredder is a whole new person. If you compare this Shredder to all the other versions, you will see that the Mirage Shredder has a certain edge about him. He seems cold. I guess it's because he is a ninja master and an assassin. Some coldness and brutality are expected from that profession, but Mirage Shredder takes it up to 11. Every time we know that Shredder is on the prowl, we know someone is going to die. Why? Because Shredder got the job done. In his very first appearance, Shredder literally met the turtles on the rooftop and beat them up so badly that they would have died had he gone further. This kind of brutality wasn't senseless. No, Shredder had a plan. He was trying to send a message. Sure, the turtles managed to come out alive from that interaction, but that's because they got lucky. If they hadn't been so lucky, they would have definitely been history, because this Shredder had the strength to pull that off. Now, his tenure in the comics was short. I know, that's strange, isn't it? In the comics, he was killed in the first story arc. Later, he came back via worms and clones because everyone wanted Shredder to be back. He was the Oroku Saki that would send chills down your spine. At least, he sent a chill down my spine. He made me worried about the safety of the turtles, and that's a big deal in my eyes. 2012 Animated Series Shredder. Next, we have the 2012 Animated Series. This Shredder was defined by one singular word: obsession. He hated Splinter from the bottom of his heart, and that hatred fueled every action of his. He ran a criminal organization and commanded the Foot, yes, but every single one of his actions was dictated by his long-standing hatred towards Splinter. He is so ready to do the wildest things imaginable if it means that he would get to one-up Splinter. He was willing to escalate a situation and even sacrifice everything around him if it meant he would be able to hurt Splinter. He mutated his own adopted daughter, he even mutated himself into the Super Shredder of this universe, and he nearly destroyed New York City multiple times. And he did all of that just to get back at Splinter. His quest to cause Splinter pain made everything else around him just collateral. And the damage was a lot because this Shredder was a monster in combat. He was incredibly fast. He managed to combat every move the turtles pulled on him. And in a way, I always found his behavior towards the turtles sadistic. He knew he was stronger and he was toying with them until he could beat them into submission. He was a threat that no one could reason with because he didn't even want to be reasoned with. The thoughts of hurting Splinter probably blocked his ears and refused to let any thoughts in. And because of this stubbornness, this Shredder ranks high on our list. A one-track-minded villain is a pretty big threat. Super Shredder 1991 film. Here we have the most explosive but also the short-lived entry on our list. This is the Super Shredder from The Secret of the Ooze. This is the 1991 film, which follows the 1990 continuity that I will discuss soon. But the reason I'll talk about the 1991 version first is because of how the transformation completely changed Shredder as a threat. In the 1990 continuity, he isn't that big of a threat, but in the 1991 film, he is, thanks to the mutagen he drank. By drinking the last vial, he sacrificed his humanity for just strength. In this form, Oroku Saki is extremely strong, and I would argue that he is stronger than most versions. However, he didn't hone that strength in technique. He fought mindlessly, and if he had just been a little bit more strategic with his blows, he would have 100% taken one or more of the turtles down. But he wasn't, and that's why he is mid-tier. He was so powerful that he was a big threat, but he couldn't control his power nor could he maintain it. This mutagen-induced mutation was like a roid rage, and much like people affected with roid rage, Shredder too didn't think clearly enough and ended up bringing down a compromised peer on top of his head, defeating himself in a matter of minutes. He could have been a good villain, but nope, he was just a dumb one. Very strong, but very dumb. 1990 live-action film Shredder. This Shredder was memorable for a reason. So unlike the other versions of Oroku Saki, who were either on a higher playing field in villainy or simply a menace, this one was very effective. He was running a criminal empire in New York City, and whatever he did it so well. Call me crazy, but I think this version of Oroku Saki was the most grounded version ever. He built an army by preying on teens who had no one to call home and effectively brainwashed them. And this technique has been used by several real-life mob bosses, bad guys in real life. So when I saw this Shredder play out, it gave me goosebumps. It felt so real. He bought the loyalty of those kids whom he was now sending off to die to achieve his goal. His manipulation skills were through the charts, and that too is very believable. And then came that rooftop fighting scene. Oh god, I love that rooftop fighting scene. He takes on all 4 turtles pretty much at the same time, proving just how superior he was to them. He made it very clear that without Splinter supporting them, the turtles wouldn't be able to make much of a dent on Shredder. Now, you might be thinking why I ranked him this low if I love him so much. Well, the answer is very simple. He was more like a gang leader than a proper villain, if you know what I mean. He just wanted to keep running the crime wave in New York City and get his revenge on Hamato Yoshi. I don't really see why I would rank a gang leader higher than this, no matter how formidable he may be. Do you? 1987 Animated Series Shredder. Then we have the Animated Series Shredder, who is probably the Oroku Saki that we all remember. For the longest time, this is who Shredder was for me. I grew up watching this animated series, so whenever I thought of Shredder, I thought of the voice, the chrome helmet, the menace, the cape, and obviously, the tension he added in the animated series. Now, before you argue that I should have ranked him higher because of his nostalgia, let me tell you, I've done my research, okay? And if we look at the track record of this Oroku Saki objectively, minus the rose-colored glasses of nostalgia, you would realize that his actual threat level was very low. What I mean is, when it comes to some villains' dangerousness, you can measure it in 2 categories: volume and effectiveness. Volume as in battalions and battalions of armies, several bombs, etc. Effectiveness as in how the villain managed to strike fear into our hearts. The best way I can explain an effective villain for you is in 2 words: Joker, crowbar. You immediately know what I'm talking about, right? Exactly. That's an effective villain, and this Shredder was more of a volume villain. He had a lot of resources, he had mutagen, and even the Technodome. Technically, if he were smart about how he was using his resources, he should have conquered Earth in 7 days. But he never did, because he wasn't at all as strategic as he could have been. So no matter how good he may look in our eyes, he is kinda incompetent. I know, it's a harsh word, but that's the reality. He was always relying on Bebop and Rocksteady, who ruined his plan over and over again because they constantly undermined him. Shredder, instead of firing the 2 henchmen, kept entrusting the most crucial part of his plans to them, and the pattern repeated itself. And okay, let me just vent for a second here. What is up with his plans? Like, I understand that he's a villain and he wants to make a mark, but what's up with these complex Rube Goldberg style plans, where if one thing goes wrong, the entire plan goes down the drain? He could have a simple plan that would be harder to mess up, but no. And okay, another thing that I didn't understand about this Shredder is why was he not fighting? I want him to fight. I know he's a good martial artist. After all, he's the leader of the Foot Clan. Then why was he not fighting? Whenever he fought hand to hand, he was competent. And I was like, oh my god, finally. But those moments were few and far between. He failed over and over again because he would refuse to stop relying on his henchmen. So despite how much I love him and consider him iconic, he's not terrifying.
Next time I will not be so merciful.
League of Assassins Shredder, Batman TMNT crossover. This is one of those surprising combinations that we just have to mention. Here you have the Foot Clan colliding with Gotham City, and surprise surprise, Shredder takes over the League of Assassins. This version of Oroku Saki takes discipline in evil to the next level. At first we see him joining hands with Ra's al Ghul, and that makes it seem like Shredder is a partner. But through time, Shredder literally usurps the control of the entire league, and this takeover is iconic. You can see just how versatile a villain Oroku Saki can be, and this is where the danger level goes up. See, the League of Assassins is a worldwide network with sleeper cells and access to Lazarus pits. Immortality is now on the table and very much approachable, and for a man who cares a lot about legacy and dominance, this control is perfect. So eventually, when we see Shredder go toe-to-toe with Batman, you can tell that Shredder is somehow an ideal Batman villain, you know? Shredder holds his ground against the Dark Knight with his skills, and Batman soon realizes that he needs to do a tactical retreat because Shredder is just that dangerous. Shredder effectively twisted Batman into a stalemate, and you know what that means. Shredder is now a world-level threat with a chillingly efficient edge to him. One thing that this particular crossover does fantastically well is send home the message that with the right resources, Shredder can quite literally be the force that reorganizes the world. Green Ranger Shredder, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. Since we are in the crossover territory, I have to tell you about this one. See, one time, Oroku Saki managed to steal Tommy Oliver's Dragon Power coin. Now this premise sounds goofy at face value, and I won't blame you if you feel like this is a bit ludicrous. But here's the thing, Oroku Saki is someone who is trained in ninjutsu. He is already a danger, and the Dragon Power coin simply boosts him up as a villain. Unlike Power Rangers who rely on teamwork and emotional emotional bonds, Shredder completely works in isolation, and with just one coin, he is completely scaled up. His already lethal combat abilities are now magnified to their fullest extent. Strictly visually speaking, this Shredder is a nightmare. The dragon shield that was once a beacon of hope basically morphs into this weapon with Shredder's armor. The dragon dagger feels hostile in his hands, and rightfully so, and Shredder effortlessly dominates the entire Ranger team. He surgically defeats everyone, every move completely calculated. A lot of people often say that Shredder is the bad guy because of his tech support, and sure, the tech support is definitely an edge, but this proves that Shredder himself is a weapon. Oroku Hiroto, the Last Ronin. You could say that Oroku Hiroto is just Shredder reborn, but I think of him as Shredder evolved, you know? In The Last Ronin, Oroku Hiroto is introduced as the grandson of Oroku Saki, ruling this cyberpunk New York decades after the Turtles have fallen. The Foot Clan won the Long War, and now there is open domination everywhere. Hiroto commands an army of Cyberfoot soldiers who are these synthetic ninjas who are stripped of every bit of humanity. Oroku Hiroto embraced technology fully, and that made him more dangerous than Oroku Saki, who I think was much more in tune with the traditions. Another key aspect why I find Hiroto a danger is the psychological distance. See, Oroku Saki fought through hell and defeated the Turtles, and when you fight a long war like this, there is some sort of attachment to the victory. Think about rich people who worked their way through poverty and reached success. They have a different way of dealing with their wealth. I'm not saying they do it any better, but they treat it differently because they earned it. Then you have the kids who are born into wealth. They don't feel the same way about that wealth because they have no attachment towards it. And that's what makes those kids dangerous. Hiroto is exactly like them. He doesn't fight fair, and he does it because he doesn't need to. He just wants to optimize the empire he inherited, and so in his eyes, the violence he commits is simply logical. But that doesn't mean he's undefeatable. He's extremely cocky, and that's what brings him down eventually. But despite that, you have to give him props where it's due. He succeeded where others failed, and at one point he completely owned New York.
Yes.
Karai, the Lady Shredder, IDW Comics. I have always had a love-hate relationship with female versions of villains and heroes. I like my women to be dangerous and complex. I want more than just representation, and when it comes to Karai, I have nothing to complain about. When she inherits the mantle, she basically revamps the Foot Clan. She gets rid of all of those ancient codes and obsession-driven vendettas because that's romanticism to a degree. Instead, she turns Foot Clan into this corporation that is modern, efficient, and most importantly, adaptable. While Hiroto made Foot Clan into this cyberpunk thing, Karai turned it into a paramilitary industrial complex. She figured out the truth. If you make a big spectacle and strike fear, people just might forget about it, as spectacle is temporary. However, if she strikes fear into people over and over again through a system, the fear will remain because small gestures have the most impact. Plus, like the girl boss she is, Karai is very cold. Unlike Oroku Saki, who was driven by hatred and honor, Karai only cares about results, so she is willing to bend her fingers if it means she will get what she wants. And that's what makes her dangerous. Under her rule, I think Foot Clan could have survived indefinitely. She would just quietly expand her rule, and to be honest, if Shredder were to be a villain in real life, I think Karai is the most realistic version of him, you know? I could totally see someone like Karai existing in real life. Dragon God Shredder. Shredder in Hell. Now we come to a Shredder that was completely stripped of everything and was rebuilt into something almost mythic. Okay, so Oroku Saki died. Yay for the Turtles. But after his death, Oroku Saki was cast into the underworld. He was forced to confront his demons, which, although it may seem like a punishment, was more like a trial. And Saki, surprise surprise, managed to not only overcome it, but also conquer Hell itself. He embraced the Dragon God's power and transcended physical form completely. He has to fight with Tatsuo Takashi, the original vassal of the Dragon God, and Oroku Saki, as it turns out, is another vassal for the Dragon God. Both Tatsuo and Oroku are supposed to be in sync, but they are not. And Oroku Saki knows that Shredder is a nightmare, not a dream. As he traverses through hell, he eventually finds out that he's just a pawn in a war that's far beyond his control. And this time, Oroku has to understand what he is supposed to be. Is he going to make Shredder another nightmare? Or is it a dream that he lost sight of? Or was Oroku being Shredder something inevitable, and the sooner he accepted it, the better for him? This 5-issue comic gives us what has to be the most existential version of Shredder ever. The villain finally crossed the boundaries. But for what? Archie Comics. The last one on our list is the Shredder of the Archie Comics universe. Those of you who are the OG fans of Mutant Ninja Turtles adventures, you would know that this version started almost identical to the actual 1987 cartoon counterpart. As a matter of fact, in the first few issues, everything plays out just like the cartoon series. However, later in the Archie Comics, we see Shredder travel to the future, where he starts working with Verminator X and Armagon. And why did he do that, you ask? Well, to be honest, he wants to offset the skills and experiences of the future versions of the Turtles. But as cool as that little premise might sound, when you read the comic books, you will notice straight away that Shredder actually doesn't have a bite to him. What I mean is, we all know that he has been a big threat to our heroes, right? So you would expect him to carry that weight too. But in this universe, Shredder is more like an obstacle than an existential threat. None of his schemes actually had any lasting effects, which is strange considering, you know, he is Shredder. It's a little annoying seeing him make a plan, launch a plan, and then inevitably get defeated by the Turtles, only to do the same thing over again without any rise in the stakes. Sure, his persistence was something, and of course, having him return over and over again was annoying, but that was really it. I never felt scared while reading the comics, and I sure as hell wouldn't be worried about Shredder if I were in that universe. So instead of getting a terrifying villain who was brilliant in a way a villain should be, we got this. And that's why he is last, because he was never really the thing the Turtles feared anyway. Shredder is an iconic character, and for over 4 decades he has tormented our heroes. The character is evil because he believes he's right, and that's why every reinvention of the character is memorable and terrifying. He adapts no matter what situation you imagine him in, and honestly, I wouldn't have him any other way. With that, we come to the end of our video. Let us know what you guys think about the Shredder versions I've mentioned and which one is your favorite. Until next time, take care.